While some people are upset that Princess Peach Showtime is too easy, maybe because it's literally a game made for kids, I think there's a deeper layer as to why this game feels so underwhelming. And although Princess Peach Showtime doesn't necessarily hold a candle towards games like Tears of the Kingdom, the game itself is still kind of a big deal in a sense. This action-adventure game is going to be the first game that features Princess Peach as the main protagonist since the divisive game Super Princess Peach back in 2005 on the DS. While it was a rare instance of Princess Peach being the protagonists, some players and critics felt like Super Princess Peach reinforced stereotypes about women being overly emotional, which didn't really resonate well with all audiences. However, Peach as a character has grown a lot in recent years. Notably is how they handled her at the end of Super Mario Odyssey, as well as her role in the Super Mario Bros. Movie, and most recently in Super Mario Bros. Wonder, where she is finally playable since she's not busy being captured. And personally, I find it's great to see them doing something different with this character. However, to be fair, I don't think the game ever had a fair chance with the unreasonable expectations surrounding it. Now, let me be clear, with how big the install base for the Switch is, of course this game is going to sell like hotcakes. What I'm talking about is purely people's expectations. In the beginning, when they first announced that there was going to be a new Peach game, that's literally all they said. They didn't have a name, and they didn't have any gameplay, just that there was a new game starring Princess Peach in the works. A lot of people were excited for this because I think a lot of people kind of drew some parallels with Luigi's Mansion, and kind of just thought, wow, this is finally Peach's moment to have her own franchise, same thing as Luigi. However, when they finally did show us the name and some gameplay, a lot of people felt a little bit disappointed because the game kind of looked simplistic. However, there was still plenty of time to learn more about the game because realistically we still didn't really know much about it. But considering the lackluster lineup of Nintendo first-party games coming to Switch this year, and this being the only original title for it, it kind of had big shoes to fill. Which is kind of unfortunate because this is clearly building up to be a game more geared towards children and their families, meaning this kind of never stood a chance. But while everybody else is busy whining because of a game that's not necessarily geared towards them, I have a different issue. It's not that the game looks bad in terms of like visuals and the style, it looks amazing actually. My issue is that once you start peeling off the layers, the game is just not creative at all. But before we go any further, allow me 10 seconds to just say this. Hey, my name's Akadrian and I post weekly Nintendo videos, so if that's your thing, please consider liking and subscribing, and now let's get right back into the video. First, let's just talk about the story for a bit. So one day, basically, a Toad is sent a flyer about a show that's going to be happening at the Sparkle Theater. So Peach and some of the Toads she's with decide to go and see it. Then suddenly, Grape, the main villain, and the Sour Bunch, which is basically Grape's minions, take over the theater, trapping Peach inside. So Peach teams up with the theater's guardian, Stella, which is a little star with a bow that she has in her hair, to stop them. So as you can tell, I probably wouldn't anticipate this game winning or even being nominated for Games with Impact this year at the Game Awards. But realistically, any Peach game was never going to be super, story-oriented, that's going to keep you on the edge of your seat, just wanting more, so I don't think that's necessarily the issue I have with the game. Now let's talk about the characters. Obviously Peach is there, and there's two of her Toads with her. And something I've noticed is that they're kind of expanding the world of the tiny characters like Toad. In Super Mario Bros. Wonder, you had the Poplins, to which I absolutely adored. But the new entity that comprises the entire itty bitty character committee in this game are the Theets. And I also don't have any issues with these tiny guys and or girls. But here is where we start entering the issues I have with the game, starting off with the controls. Now, one of the hardest aspects of the game is remembering what the buttons do. Traditionally, you would press the B button to jump. However, in this game, you have to press the A button to jump. Whereas the B button is the action button, so depending on the transformation you are, pressing the B button will do whatever that transformation's action is. And luckily for us, even though those are all the buttons and they're so incredibly hard to remember, by pressing X, the game will remind you of the controls. You see what I mean by how this game just isn't necessarily meant for older audiences? Now with all that being said, we can finally dive deep into why I have a little bit of a problem with Princess Peach Showtime. From what I've been seeing, a lot of people's opinion on this game is very one note. I feel as though people are just tiptoeing around the fact that I think that once this game releases, shortly after, nobody's going to be talking about it anymore. And let me just quickly reiterate that I know, like I said before, this is a game geared towards children and people are just holding it to such a high regard because of the lack of new Nintendo games there are this year. At least that we know of so far. However, just because the game is geared towards children and their families, it doesn't mean you have to kind of water down the entire experience. And I've also seen people online say at least that the game is creative, and I don't just necessarily want to be a contrarian here, but I disagree. You know, like, I do appreciate that they keep the theme of the theater production throughout the whole thing with all the cardboard cutouts and strings dangling everywhere, but I think that the game is still just a big cop-out on Nintendo's part. I feel like they kind of didn't know necessarily what direction they wanted to go with the game, because I feel as though this whole game is just a bunch of mini-games kind of smashed together. And the whole theater production thing where they're trapped in the theater, I think that's just a way to make it logically all blend in together to make it feel like everything is more cohesive than it really is. And I feel like the game is kind of built on this principle.
Barbie, I can be anything I wanna be. What do I wanna be?
And by all means, I have nothing against Barbie, and if Nintendo wants their very own pink character that transforms, you know, they can have that too. But one issue is, they already have that. However, one thing I'll give Kirby over Princess Peach is that, at least with Kirby, you're not bound to one ability per stage. During Princess Peach Showtime, let's say you're just kind of not feeling an outfit and it's not necessarily fun or doesn't resonate with you, it's kind of just tough. You have to deal with it. At least with Kirby, if you don't like the ability you first get when you start the stage, you know, you can just toss it and find another one that maybe resonates more with you. Personally, something I think would kind of make the game a bit more interesting was if it was kind of like a Metroidvania-like game. What I mean by that is, as you beat levels and progress through the game, you'll unlock more costumes. However, the costumes can be swapped to at any moment. Each level could put an emphasis on using a specific transformation, however, you shouldn't be necessarily bound to use it the entire time. Like maybe you're fighting a boss in the game, maybe it would be optimal to use a certain transformation, but it should still be possible to fight with a different transformation, even if it's giving yourself a harder time. And I think just a small change like that could kind of go a long way, even if I was a kid. Obviously, there's always going to be a transformation that you'll always like the most, so it kind of allows the people to play as the transformations they like the most for even longer, even if it doesn't necessarily make sense in the context of the level. However, just for shits and giggles, I kind of thought of a new concept for a Peach game. And of course, I don't expect this ever to come true, it's just for fun what a Peach game could have been. I think I'm going to make another video really diving deep on what I mean by this game and what the concept truly is, but for now let's just look at it at a high level what in general it would be. I called this concept of a game Peach's Defense Force Bowser's Bane. The subtitle for Bowser's Bane is optional, but it's just to open the doors for if ever we would want to make a sequel. But considering the game doesn't exist, I probably wouldn't wait on a sequel anyways. The entire concept of this game is basically that Peach is fed up of always being captured. Maybe the game could start off with Mario rescuing her once again, and then she's just tired of it and decides, you know what, I'm going to do something to prevent this from happening again. And here's how I think the gameplay would go. Players step into the role of Princess Peach as she embarks on a daring espionage mission to gather intel on Bowser's next nefarious scheme. Utilizing stealth, craftiness, and strategy, players must gather information before implementing preventative measures to thwart Bowser's plan and ensure the safety of the Mushroom Kingdom. The gameplay would look a little bit something like this. First, you must go on some espionage missions, so players navigate through Bowser's various strongholds, including his castle eventually, and other key locations, using stealth and deception to avoid detection by his minions. Princess Peach must gather intel by eavesdropping on conversations, hacking into computers, and collecting documents without raising suspicion. There are already stealth missions in Princess Peach Showtime, and you just have to kind of combine that with tasks similar to Among Us. It doesn't have to be complicated, but it kind of feels a bit more like you're doing something bigger. And realistically, a character like Stella could still be part of this game, because I still think you could still use like gadgets and disguises to gain access to restricted areas. And once you have all the information you think you need and you think you understand what Bowser's next plan is, you can head back to the castle. From there, I think it should be kind of like a tower defense game, where maybe the Theets can still be in this game, except instead of being, theater kids, they can be kind of like little mercenaries, I guess you could say. You can still make them silly, but basically some of the Theets could have certain powers to attack certain enemies. The way I think about it is this can still be pitched in a kid-friendly way. You just kind of make it kind of like Plants vs. Zombies. Kids love that game. Then the entire gameplay loop is just going out on missions, discovering what the plan is, then getting prepared for it, and seeing if you can find a plan to win. But yeah, in conclusion, it's just like I said, realistically, I know this game is going to sell like hotcakes. I don't mean my concept, of course, the real Princess Peach Showtime game. I just feel like it could have been so much more. But what do you think about all of this? Let me know down in the comments. Are you excited for Princess Peach Showtime, and are you going to be getting it day one? Let me know. Also, did you play the demo? And if you did, let me know. It might just be my speakers, but when I was playing through the demo, Peach sounded really off. It kind of sounded like her voice lines were recorded on a mic like this. I mean, by all means, I'm far overdue of upgrading my speakers. I had the ones I got now for free anyways, but yeah, I don't know, just let me know. It's been driving me crazy. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you liked it, please consider liking and subscribing, and until next time, Wadao!